There was a time where I was hopeful about the Jon Jones-Tom Aspinall fight. I mean, Dana White was coming out saying the fight was a done deal, and I was starting to actually finally believe, right? But it seems like Jon Jones has now hit a point where the fight's in front of him. He's either going to have to duck or he's going to have to actually fight. I mean, it is literally those two options. Welcome to another episode of Duck Watch, guys. Today we're going to be watching one of the biggest ducks in the sport, guys, Jon Jones right now. I have been known at one point in time on the channel, guys. People were accusing me of glazing this guy, right? Because I picked him to beat Cyril Gane. And me being one of his defenders, right, guys? And I do defend him in a lot of ways, have now turned against him, guys. You guys have seen the past year and a half. We have had ups, we have had downs, we have had more downs, and we are at probably the lowest low, as we are now hearing by multiple sources that, yeah, this fight might not even happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's because Jon Jones is probably ducking, guys. We're going to get into this. We're going to react to the multiple reports, what we could take away from it, guys, and everything we know, insider info, guys. Just hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share, guys, and let us get into it, guys, because it has been a crazy past 48 hours, really. So this first clip is from Tom Aspinall, right? He kind of hinted at knowing something, knowing what the future was going to hold for him about the Jon Jones-Tom Aspinall fight. Here was the update that he gave basically a couple of days ago before all this shit broke out.
Yeah, feeling good, back in the gym, and I know everyone wants fight news. But I do know what's happening. I have had meetings with the UFC, as we know.
Okay, yeah.
I have been sworn to secrecy for a little bit. So stay tuned, stay up with the channels, stay up with the UFC channels, of course, as always, as you guys always do. But there will be news coming, hopefully, very, very soon. But if you're going to ask me, I can't give the answer right now. But stay tuned.
So that's what Tom Aspinall had to say about the whole situation, right, guys? And obviously, this is kind of a non-update, right? I mean, he just says he knows things are happening, which kind of implies that there's something positive about the situation because, you know, I don't think he's, you know, preparing us for, yeah, I know I'm going to fight Cyril Gane for the interim title again in August, right? Like, that's not big. So he's talking about something big here. So it seemed like, you know, from this update, I felt like, okay, we're still heading towards a positive direction. And then I felt like we were really positive at one point because Chael Sonnen yesterday, he went on the Good Guy, Bad Guy show, the show he does with DC on ESPN, right? And he talked about the fight between Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones, said it was a done deal, said that he was confident that he could report it and was big upping Jon Jones all the time. We're going to react to that right now.
Are you confident enough to say that you think that's what's happening?
No, I am confident enough to tell you that that fight is done, though. That fight is agreed all the way down to the date. That I do have a confidence to tell you. International fight week would make perfect sense. I personally just in my heart, I always thought they were going to go back to New York.
Could this just be reality, bro?
Jones said he needs 4 months.
Could this be reality, bro?
Now you're going to do it
I'm telling you, this Jon Jones business, Jones will say a lot of things to the media. When he gets that phone call, here's the guy you're fighting. Do you understand? Yes. And that is what he will say. All the other reports are not true.
So
Jon has come out.
Just as you can see, just like obvious glazing. I took it a grain of salt, but I also paid attention to it. And the delusion was, you know, trying to get there, trying to say, Jack, the fight might actually be made. You know, like I've been wanting this fight for a long time. So is everybody else. Not even 24 hours later, this delusion just shattered before my eyes. Chael Sonnen, I guess, had like a weird schizophrenic moment or whatever, because then he goes on his YouTube channel, reports the exact opposite thing.
From the time this leaves my mouth to the time we get this to California, turned around, and onto the internet is going to be about 40 minutes. So the only way I get scooped on this is if somebody hits me in 40 minutes. But the current plan right now, Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the interim championship?
I'll say 100%.
I'm starting to think maybe we're not going to wait all that long. Maybe we are going to get this in the summer. Maybe international fight. So this is what Chael Sonnen said, guys. I mean, Chael Sonnen obviously now switching up completely and saying Tom Aspinall is going to fight Cyril Gane for the interim title, guys. And this is just ridiculous. If this happens, guys, it's ridiculous, guys. Strip Jon Jones if this fight doesn't happen. There's no need. There's no reason why Jon Jones should be the title holder. But then things got really interesting because Ariel Helwani reacted to Chael Sonnen initially saying that Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall was a done deal and refuted it. Said that's not true. Said the actual truth. I guess what's going on. Giving some really interesting insider info, guys. Let's react to it.
My understanding is if this fight doesn't come to fruition, if for whatever reason it falls apart and we never get to see Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, the UFC is not to blame. The UFC has, in my opinion... That's a big
statement, guys. That's
well,
something to pay
I'll take
attention
that back.
to.
The UFC has, based on the conversations that I've had, not in my opinion, but what I'm reading and surmising and what's being told to me is they have made every effort in very good faith to make this fight happen.
When he reports something, I tend to take that very serious because there has been very little times, at least that I have seen, where he is wrong. So that's why I trust this, and I trust where this is coming from. And another thing about Ariel, guys, and you guys probably know this, he is known, there's a narrative out there that he is so, like, anti-UFC and things like that. And I wouldn't say he hates the UFC or anything like that, but he definitely favors the fighters, which I think most people should if we're talking about guys getting paid $20K a fight compared to a multi-billion-dollar company. So I absolutely agree with him, but he is a guy that tends to usually agree with the fighters, guys. And in this case, he is siding with the UFC, which says a lot. So for him to say that, for him to stick his neck out for a guy that, keep in mind, Dana White is the president of the company. Dana White and him have a pretty notable feud. And if the UFC actually called Jon Jones's bluff, guys, I mean, at this point, I have no idea what else to think other than he doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall. There's no excuse.
It's not because of the UFC. It's not because of Tom Aspinall as well.
Yeah,
I think ultimately who will decide whether or not this fight happens or not is Jon Jones. Now, for a while, you could have said, all right, they have to meet whatever number, right? That 30 million was thrown out. Whatever that number is, Rogan walked it back. I had heard the same number, whatever. Point is, I believe that the UFC has met all the demands.
So $30 million
in a very favorable way for both guys.
Maybe even
they
more.
both have demands. We know what Tom wants to a degree, and we know what Jon wants to a degree. I think ultimately it's on him.
Now here Ariel is saying the obvious, but also dropping some big info that we were just discussing before about the 30 million. Obviously, we know Tom Aspinall's on board. We know the UFC wants to fight. It's Jon Jones. That's the only missing piece, and it made sense for a while. I agree. Like, I was someone saying, look, the UFC is also at fault here. Let's not forget the UFC should pay Jon Jones 30 million. Now, Jon Jones, in the midst of all this, I think a little bit around the time Tom Aspinall dropped his YouTube video, he did actually post a tweet and then delete it. Jon posted a guy who was known for calling out Jon Jones and didn't end up being great at all, which is a vague tweet, and is Jon Jones once again going with this narrative that he doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall because, he hasn't done anything and he could just be some shit fighter, which, as I said before, if the UFC is offering all of his so-called demands, right, like, what is the problem then, right? Unless you just don't want to fight him. And if you don't want to fight him because you're afraid that he's not going to be great after all, then why even negotiate in the first place? Like, if there was not going to be a number that would satisfy you, why even negotiate, guys? And as I said before, it's to look like you're down to fight, man. Nah, I was willing to fight. It was just the UFC didn't want to pay me. Jon Jones is dead to right exposed here. And honestly, it's one thing to duck, but it's another thing that I think is even worse, to try to pretend to be like a tough guy, try to pretend that you're down to fight when you're not. Just be straight up, dude. Like, you deserve now to get made fun of just for trying to act and trying to put on this whole facade that you're down to fight, when now you just cherry pick matchups of guys who have been retired for multiple years that don't deserve a title shot, flaunting around like you're the champ, my guy. Like, it's just not it. Like, at this point, I just think it's ridiculous. Jon Jones is clearly ashamed of this. Like, he can't even deny it. Like, I don't want to see this guy coming out in interviews, trying to defend himself, because he knows the truth. That is why he's been hiding behind negotiations. But if the fight gets made, I actually do apologize for this video then, Mr. Jones. But for now, I don't think the fight is going to happen. So that is where I stand on this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Check out my last video where I talked about Dricus Du Plessis, Khamzat Chimaev getting canceled, and, how Ilia could be stepping up to fight in the main event. You guys are the best fan base in MMA. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share, y'all. And I'll see you guys in the next one.